Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the After Dark podcast. My name is Isaac Marano, and for today's episode I'll be talking with Paige as she shares her own personal story of domestic violence. Hi Paige, how are you going?
Hi, good, how are you?
Thanks so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so Paige, I was wondering if you could just share what your home life was like growing up, and also what the relationship was like between your parents.
Yeah, so growing up, I had an amazing childhood. I was super close with my parents and my entire family. My dad was kind of absent, not like a father that was never around, just more if he would come home from work and I wanted to like give him a hug, he'd be like, "Oh, not right now, like I'm tired."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he never really gave me the attention that I wanted. Um, but my relationship with my mom was amazing. She's my best friend.
Oh, okay. And so to fast forward a little bit to when you first got into the abusive relationship, can you explain a little what that was like at the start?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was like, oh my goodness, this is way too good to be true. He's so attractive, so nice. He's older. So I did get a lot of people telling me it was a bad idea. He's a bad guy. Like, just warnings from his ex-girlfriends or just people that knew him.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but I was like, no, like he said, like when I first started talking to him, he was like, I used to be an asshole. I changed. I'm not like that anymore. And like kind of, gave me that little speech.
Yeah. Yep.
And I definitely believed him.
Yeah.
He's very good at manipulating.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, so I did think it was like picture perfect, but then I mean, we kind of started dating when I just turned 18.
Okay.
So he was always wanting to go out, and then every time we would go out, he would do drugs, and then that was kind of like when it hit me that, oh, this is not perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it may not have been the fairy tale that you first thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you were 18 in that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so how long in total were you in that relationship for?
3 years. Well, 2.5, but I mean, three, I just say 2.5. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. And during that time, was he abusive for the whole time?
So, yeah, it kind of started with emotional abuse. Like, he was just very, it was like, how do I explain it? He just always used to say that, like, we were perfect together and all this, and like, I was made for him. And then he would talk about his past relationships and how his ex girlfriends were very abusive and cheated on him and were awful to him, and how he was abused growing up. So he always wanted me to like make him feel better.
Oh, okay, yep.
And then I never got like told that I was pretty or things like that. And he always put me down. And then um, he was also very verbally abusive. Like he would always tell me that I was a slut and just all these things. And then if I would go to walk away, he would grab my arm. And that's kind of when the physical stuff started happening.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking back now, do you think there were any potential warning signs that you may have missed at the time that would have suggested he could have been abusive?
Yeah. Other than like all of the people telling me, oh, he's abusive
Oh, true,
and
yeah.
stuff. um, the first thing that happened was he was calling me names and I went to walk away because I was like, I don't need to be like talked to like this. And he grabbed me by the arm and pulled me back in the room. And then that's kind of when I was like, oh, like that's not okay. That's not how this is going to go. But then it just gradually got worse.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so did you have to endure the physical abuse for the majority of the relationship, or was it just more towards the end?
Yeah, so at first it was just verbal and emotional and mental. And then probably like 2 weeks in is when the physical and financial started. And then near the end, it turned into sexual abuse also.
Oh, wow. And do you remember back then if you had any support from family or friends during that time?
I did, but I couldn't. He cut me off from my family and friends completely. My best friend of 18 years, she and I weren't allowed to speak. He would always say, like, you guys are lesbians, like, you can't talk. And if I ever find out that you talk to her, I'll kill you, and like all these things. And then she actually ended up going to the police probably a year ago. And then after that, I didn't talk to her like ever
Oh,
because,
okay.
well, she went to the cops about how he was abusive. And then he basically said if he ever found out I talked to her, he would kill me. And
Oh,
then with
wow.
my family, I wasn't allowed to speak to my sister because he just thought she wasn't a good person. I wasn't allowed to send family members hearts because hearts were only meant to be sent to him. Yeah, if he found out that I had talked to a friend, he would want to read the conversation, or if it was like a phone call, it was like, well, tell me every little thing that you said, and then he wouldn't believe me when I would tell him.
Oh, okay. So going through your phone, that was a regular thing?
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a big thing.
Wow. So you must have just felt so trapped and just kind of isolated from everything because you couldn't even have your own privacy, even like just with your phone as well.
I was a prisoner for sure. Like, I wasn't allowed to leave the house unless he knew where I was going, and I had to Snapchat him like every 5 seconds, my every move.
Oh,
I
wow.
I couldn't wear makeup because then I was having sex with someone else, and I couldn't look like I couldn't not wear makeup because then I'm not trying for him. So it was always, I never knew what I was going to get when he got home, because if I looked good, then he'd be like, who are you cheating on me with? And if
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't look good, then he'd be like, really, you don't ever try. And we have a son together.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, he would always get jealous and tell me that I need to pay more attention to him, and like that I'm giving our son all the attention and all this stuff.
Wow. So yeah, it must have been really tough because it's like you're in an impossible situation where
Yeah,
nothing you do is
yeah,
right. I
exactly.
guess you just can't please him.
Yeah,
And you mentioned before too that you had a son.
yeah.
So was it challenging as well to try and make sure that your son didn't witness any of the abuse?
It was difficult because if he and I would be fighting, I'd be like, can you at least let me go put our son like over by his toys, and like, can you at least talk quiet, or yell at me quieter, or like not hit me in front of him. But he didn't care. He would always say, I don't give a fuck,
Oh,
and
wow.
would be yelling. He would slap me in front of our son. He would grab my son from my arms like very aggressively. One time he hit me while I was holding our son. He almost punched our son in the head because he was aiming for my arm, but I was holding our son, like I was
Oh,
cradling him.
yeah.
I always tried, but I don't know. It's like he wanted our son to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And so how old was your son during this time?
Our son just turned a year in September.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, so really, really little.
Yeah.
And how did you end up going about leaving this relationship?
So I actually ended up leaving. It was in August, but a week prior to that, he had gotten home the one morning after being out all night because uh, he's a drug and alcohol addict, so he was always out doing whatever. And he came home the next morning, and I basically was like, "Hey, like I cannot do this anymore. Like I deserve better." And he lost it, and he jumped on me and held me down and said that he was going to kill me, and he strangled me until I blacked out. And then when I came to, he was crying and was like, I can't believe this. Like, you're not taking our son. And I was like, well, yes, I am. Like, you're not stable enough to have him by yourself. Like, you can't take care of him. You've never been alone with him for more than an hour.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of lost it again and got back on top of me and started strangling me again. And when he was doing it, he was looking into my eyes and just kept saying, I'm going to fucking kill you. You're dead. And then I blacked out again. And then when I came to, he just started doing it immediately again. And this time he was squeezing way harder.
Oh.
And I could feel myself going, and through my head, I was like, okay, like, this is it. This is how it ends. And
Oh.
then something just came over me where I was like, no, like, F this. This is not how this is going to end. Like, this is not, I'm not going to let him win. And I somehow got like the strength, and I like got my arm out from underneath him, and I have fake nails. So I clawed his face, and I was clawing, like, I just like grabbed his face with my nails, and I was squeezing pretty hard, and he was like still choking me. And then eventually he let go, and he was like, ow, like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, now my lip is bleeding. And he got mad at me, but I was kind of like, you know, I was crying at this point. And then he asked if I was okay, and he wanted to see my neck. And then he just went on to say, like, if I was actually leaving him, then he was going to kill himself. And I said, don't say that. And then he was like, I'll do it right in front of you to prove it. And then I just kind of, wanted to make him feel better. So I talked him down. And then a week later, I had to wait for him to not be home because I knew that if I tried to leave, it would just, I was like, I'm going to die. So a week later, he didn't come home, and I called the police and I reported everything. And then he ended up getting arrested that night. And I haven't communicated with him since. And that was almost 3 months ago.
Wow. So Paige, that's so recent.
Yeah.
3 months. That's incredible that you're able to feel open enough to speak about this so soon.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine what that must have been like what was going through your mind at that time.
Having the person that's supposed to love you and be there for you no matter what sit there on top of you, strangling you, looking you in the eyes, saying that they're going to kill you. It's just, it really messes with your mind. Like, I don't even understand how I stayed in it for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a difficult thing because you become a prisoner, and you become so drained, and you just start like doubting yourself and everything in your life. And like, since I was so isolated, I just, like, I didn't think that leaving him, I was like, I'm gonna have no one. Like, he's the only person I have, so I would rather be in this and be treated like crap than be alone. Like, I would rather be with him and unhappy than without him.
And it must have been so terrifying just being alone and isolated like that, separated and cut off from your family.
Yeah, I knew that my family would always be there, but every time I had tried to leave in the past, I would go to my family, tell them what happened, but I never told them the extent of the abuse. They knew that he had a drug problem and he cheated on me a lot and he was an asshole, but they didn't know the physical abuse.
Yeah. Yep.
So then I just, every time it was like, oh, if I go to them again, then they're just not going to believe me. But like this time I knew that I was done. Something in my brain just clicked and I was like, okay, like, this is it. I need to get out because I will die if I stay with this guy.
Yeah. Okay. So you really reached that turning point where you were like, enough is enough.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I thought I had reached that point multiple times before after something would happen, but I would always go back because I always missed him. My love for him was greater than my love for myself.
Yeah.
So I always put him first. And when I wasn't with him, I was like, oh, he's probably so upset, probably so lonely, and I miss him. So I would go crawling back.
Okay. So there's a common question I think that gets thrown around a fair bit.
Yeah.
Is that why don't you just leave the relationship? It sounds so simple, but
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that might be thinking that?
Yeah, I do. When they say like, why didn't you leave, or why'd you stay with him for so long? It's not that I didn't want to leave, it's that I couldn't leave. It you become so dependent on that person, and not even like you, it's not that you get addicted to the abuse, it just becomes such a routine and a habit. It's you're feared you're fearful to leave. You don't want to leave because first you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Plus, if you leave them, then if they get into a relationship with another person and then they hurt them or they treat them way better, then it's like, why them? Why not? Like, why couldn't I get the good version of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, when people say, like, why didn't you leave? I basically just say, I couldn't. I tried and you just can't. Like, and no one understands. You'll never be able to understand it unless you're in it or you've been through it because it's such a mind game. It changes everything. Like you're not even your own person anymore. You don't know how to be a person. You just become a being and you are lifeless. Like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And even since knowing that this is only like it's only been relatively recent, only a few months.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself being triggered by things throughout the day?
Yeah.
That might make you think back to this time?
So actually I have had a few anxiety and panic attacks the past couple of days. They've been really bad. I used to, when it first ended, I slept with the AC unit on,
Oh,
which like
okay.
has that fan sound, and I would wake up to like myself like thinking that he was trying to break in because, like I said, he would always come home like in the morning, or he would come home at like 2 a.m. sometimes, and be banging on the door or the window or whatever to try and wake me up to let him in.
Yeah.
So the AC just kind of like brought back those memories. And I would wake up and I would think that he was trying to break in, or I would wake up and think that he was strangling me or things like that. And then I actually ran into him a few times the past couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
And it was not fun. I mean, obviously we didn't talk, but yeah, just seeing him sent me into an anxiety attack. And on the weekend, I was in Banff with my sister, and he was there also with his new girlfriend. It kind of sent me into a 2 hour long anxiety attack. And I was on the floor crying, trying to breathe, almost passing out. And I was wearing a necklace that I had to get my friend to take off because it just was reminding me of like him strangling me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I, and even last night, I got into my friend's truck and I just started freaking out because he used to drive a truck, and just like little things like that would set me off, or just being in a place or remembering a time, like if I saw something and I was like, oh, like he beat the crap out of me when we were there, it would just make me go into like an anxiety attack.
Oh, okay. And how did you manage to overcome the anxiety attack?
I had a really good friend of mine there, and I don't know how she knew how to deal with me, but basically everyone was like trying to make me laugh, and she was like, "Hey guys, like leave her alone. She needs to just breathe, and like we just need to do whatever she needs." So I was on the floor, kind of hunched over, and I was like holding my neck, and I remember I was just kept saying "ow" because I just was remembering the pain.
Yeah.
And then I would get really hot, so she would take my jacket off, and then I would get cold, so she would put it back on, and then I would almost pass out, so she would just like hold me up, and she was just telling me to breathe and rubbing my back and
Yeah.
just comforting me because when you're in that state, like nothing matters except for trying to breathe
Yeah.
and trying not to pass out. But yeah, she just kind of sat there, and I did come like a few times. I caught my breath and I started breathing normally, and then it would just start happening again, and I would just start crying and gasping for air.
Yeah. Okay. And so knowing what you know now, after being in an abusive relationship, how do you think that would affect your future relationships?
So I have noticed that I look for certain things, like I guess like not their past or anything like that, just the way that they treat me or talk to me or my friends or my mom, like
Oh,
little
okay. Yep.
things like that. But I don't know. I'm a pretty strong person. Like a lot of people ask me how I'm so open about everything, and especially so early on after it all happened. But I just like I think that I'm very truly blessed because I don't think that everyone would be able to be so okay. I'm quote unquote okay. Honestly, I know that not everyone is like that. Not everyone is an abusive person, and like I guess I don't take things from a past relationship and drag it onto a new relationship because everybody's a new person. Like no one's the same. Just
Yeah.
because he did that doesn't mean they're going to do it. So I'm very good with like, giving everybody a new start. Of course, if they do something, then obviously I'll act accordingly. But like I never had any self-love or worth or anything. So that's what I've been trying to work on the most. And I truly believe that like if I don't love myself, I shouldn't be in a relationship because you can't love someone until you love yourself.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, it just so and I don't think that anything that happens in your life is an excuse to be rude or abusive or anything because there are ways to cope and deal with it. And people bringing their past experiences into a relationship and using it as an excuse to do things, then they're not ready for a relationship or they're too immature to be in a relationship.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about being in a relationship in the future?
Yeah, for me, it's not even that I want to wait or I want to be in a relationship. I just believe that when that person comes along, I'll know and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're perfect, but I'm actually not looking to date right now.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm just gonna go with the flow. If that makes sense. I'm not putting a time limit or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And just wondering what advice you might be able to give somebody that's dating a survivor of domestic violence.
I would tell them have patience because not every day is going to be perfect. There's no certain thing that's going to trigger an attack, like an anxiety attack or panic attack or self doubt or just memories or fear or anything like that. So
Yeah.
honestly, just they have to be very patient with you and they need to be kind because people who are abused aren't used to having um, someone be kind to them. They aren't used to being respected. And I think that's a big thing is you just need to just be a good person, like straight up. That's
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I just believe that if they are with someone that was abused, you don't need to treat them like they're a victim because that's just going to make them hold on to those memories even more. You just need to live your everyday life, be happy, just be with that person. And if they're having a anxiety attack or a day where they're feeling low, you just need to be there for them and comfort them and give them what they need. And if they just need someone to talk to or a shoulder to cry on or they
Yeah.
want 500 cheeseburgers, whatever it is, they need you to be that person who's going to be there for them and not judge them for being upset.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And just wondering what advice you might be able to give to somebody that's currently in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, honestly, I would suggest buying some R.H. Sin books. He's a poet and they are fantastic. They relate to everyone in any way. no matter what you're going through. But I I know how hard it is to be in the relationship and feel lonely and blocked off from the world and like you're a caged animal basically. But if you feel like you want to get out, the time will come when you know that you're ready. But until that time comes, as much as it sucks to say and to hear, you just have to put up with it, because the more your friends and family try to push you and pull you away from this person, the tighter you're going to hold on to it, even though you know it's not good and it's toxic. It's just, you need to wait until you're ready. And it sucks because some people can't get out of an abusive relationship for years. Like I know some people who were in one for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And
15.
that's just how long it took her to get out. And as much as that sucks, you can't leave before you're ready. And clearly there are lessons that need to be learned, and you're in that situation. Like everything happens for a reason, and as much as it sucks, the people who go through something like that and get out of it and come through on the other side, they are going to be stronger, and they are going to appreciate life so much more. And it sucks that you have to go through that. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. So I'm not saying that they're going through it because they deserve to.
Yeah,
I'm
of
just
course.
saying that that's just how their life was supposed to happen, and it's for a reason. And whether it's something that's going to be shared or not, it's it's a hard thing to go through. But I mean, I'm very grateful that I went through it, because now I have a much bigger appreciation for everything ever.
That's so good to hear. That's awesome. Yeah, and do you have any plans in the future to help raise awareness of domestic violence?
Yes, I have been trying to post on social media to raise awareness, and I've been telling little, not really my story, just my experience of being with someone who's abusive or a narcissist and things like that. But I am actually, in 2019, my book will be published.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I also was starting or thinking about starting a podcast, just kind of telling my story. And because I think when you hear someone else's story, it really helps. But yeah, I want to be able to get my story out there, because it's such a crazy one. When I think back on everything I went through, it sounds so ridiculous. It's crazier than a movie.
Yeah.
It like my life has I've had a very crazy past couple years, and even my friends and family that I've talked to now, when I tell them the things that I went through, they don't even like, it's just so incredibly insane and painful. So I just feel like I need to share it, because yeah, in the movies they show domestic violence and all these things, but I feel like it's not the whole story. Like there's so many little things that the movies don't touch on. I know that in some movies they'll show like the abuse of like someone being yelled at, or them throwing things, or being hit, or things like that, but they don't show the everyday little things. They don't show how after they hit you and you're crying, all of a sudden it's everything is your fault. Like every little thing is your fault. You did something wrong to make them upset, and you apologize because you made them upset. You apologize because you aren't perfect enough to make them happy, or make all of their past experiences that made them an awful person. Like you can't make those things go away. And then they don't show that after all the abuse, they want love and affection. and you give it to them because you do love them, but also because you're afraid of what they might do if you don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you mentioned before too that at times you often kind of felt sorry for him or sympathy towards him.
Yeah. Yeah. So after actually the last thing that happened after the strangulation, he really wanted to have sex because that would make him feel better. You know, it would make it be like, oh, it's okay what I just did. He wanted that level of comfort, but I didn't want to. And then that's when probably within that week is when the biggest, all the bigger things happen, like the attempted murder. And then he also raped me. So after those things, even though they were such painful, traumatic experiences, I still wanted to give him every bit of love that I had to give because I loved him so much, but also because I was so afraid of what he might do if I didn't. Because you're getting abused when you give them what they want, and you're getting abused if you don't. But it's just like I've never not given him what he wanted. Like if he wanted me to stop talking to someone, I would stop talking to them. If he wanted me to make food, I'd make food. If he wanted me to, whatever it would be, I would just do it to please him. But I couldn't imagine, I didn't even want to think about what would happen if I said no.
Yeah, and also as well, you must have seen, like looking back now, you must have seen a big difference from the person that you were just before you started the relationship to, I guess, what you had kind of become at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people that I've hung out with since I left him, they all are like, "Oh my goodness, like I can see you again. Like when I look into your eyes, there's life there again. Like you're just back to who you were, but like a better version, stronger."
Yeah.
Things like that. Like I just like even looking back on photos of me when I was with him, my eyes are just blank. My smile is so fake. I just I was literally just a shell. Like there was no emotion. I was just completely drained.
And once you were finally able to leave the relationship, what was the response like from your friends and family?
They were all super happy and like they just could not believe that I finally got out of it because I was trying to leave for probably a year and a half,
Oh, wow. Okay.
maybe maybe even 2 years. I was trying to leave, so for only like 6 months, I was like maybe he'll change, and then the rest of the time just was so off, like so off.
Yeah.
But yeah, my entire family and my friends were so happy. I mean, a lot of my friends made a bet. They're like, "Oh no, she's gonna go back to him,"
Oh,
because that's what I would always do.
yeah.
But I actually ended up losing two of my best friends because they took his side over mine, and they said that I was lying about everything and I was just
Oh,
trying to
what?
ruin his life. So yeah, he's a very good manipulator, like very, very good. And it doesn't help that he's attractive because, of course, girls will just, you know, do whatever, listen to them. But I mean, a lot of people don't know that I actually did go to the police because I feel like if they knew that, then they would be a little bit more aware of who he really is.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
really hope that he doesn't hurt his new girlfriend because I would feel so awful. Like, I mean, even though I went to the police and I'm trying to do something about it, there's still that gap of time that he has. But he has to be this perfect, nice gentleman because if he isn't, then it's just going to go against him and it's going to help me and my case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he has to be this perfect version of himself or else it's going to show who he really is, you know? But I just really don't want him to hurt her. I mean, like, I have nothing against her. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, she's with my ex. But she, like, I did warn her. People have warned her, but she's believing what he's saying.
Oh, no.
So I'm just praying that he doesn't do anything. I knew that I could handle it, even though it hurt. I'm a very strong person. Like, I knew that it wasn't right. I knew what he was doing. Like, yes, he would manipulate me, but I always knew that he was manipulating me. A lot of girls, it'll just be happening and they won't even realize it.
Yeah.
But I always knew what he was doing. I just didn't know how to get out. And plus, like, I was so madly in love with him.
Yeah.
But I did, yeah, I for sure, I thought, at least I know that I can handle this. Some other girl might not be able to handle it. Like, so as long as I'm with him, he can't be hurting anyone else.
So, generally speaking, what's your life looking like these days?
Yes, I am so happy with my life. Like I said, I have a bigger appreciation for everything, and I'll just stop and start laughing. And I'm just so grateful to be alive. Like, I have an amazing baby boy. I have amazing friends. I have an amazing family. I have a great job. I'm alive. I am living. I'm free from him. And I am trying to do my best to raise awareness for this kind of stuff, because it's just crazy that someone could be so evil and demonic and hurt another person. Definitely plays with your mind. And one of R.H. Sin's quotes, he says, being in love by yourself, which is exactly what it's like when you're with someone who's abusive or a narcissist. You are in love by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. It's hard because you just want to give that person everything that you have. You want to give them all of your love and affection and attention because you want them to feel loved, yet they are sucking you dry of everything. But yeah, my everyday life is pretty awesome other than the random panic attacks. But other than that, I love my life.
Well, Paige, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah.
I know it's definitely not an easy thing to do, but I appreciate how much you have been able to go into the details and give an insight to what it must have been like to live in that relationship. So, no, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story of hope. If you know of anyone that might be struggling with domestic violence, please feel free to share this podcast with them. If you believe in the value of sharing these stories and would like to donate to show your support, I would really appreciate it. To find out more about donating, please visit afterdarkpodcast.com. So, until next time, my name is Isaac Marano, and this is the After Dark Podcast.